I want it to feel like I'm in the room by myself.
Yeah.
Let's try one.
Jeremy, a true honor to speak with you today.
So happy to speak with you, man.
We're gonna get deep on this one.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
In recent memory, you've played a couple real life people and really spotlighting their tragic stories. Obviously the Von Erichs in The Iron Claw, and now Bruce Springsteen in one of the darkest periods of his life here in Deliver Me From Nowhere. Can you kind of talk to me about the responsibility you feel when you're entrusted with someone's vulnerability like that?
Yeah, it's just heavier. I mean, every time you approach a character as an actor, it feels heavy, and you know there's a world out there, hopefully, that's gonna watch it and judge it on its honesty. And then when you're playing a real person, it's not just the public you're contending with. It's oftentimes, family, fans, audiences, in the case of both Carrie and Bruce. And yeah, I don't know, you want to tell your version of these men, and you want to have some kind of input and understanding perhaps that their fans might not have. But you also feel like you don't want to interrupt the sort of very specific and intimate relationship that these men, and especially Bruce Springsteen, have with their fans. And so it's a bit of a tightrope walk to try and bring a new perspective to a character who happens to be a real person, while also feeling like you're not losing that person, I guess, at the same time.
Sure, you don't want to do a full-on impersonation, but you also want to honor who the person was. Speaking on that note, I was trying to look for little ticks that you brought to this performance. Always capitalized A when writing lyrics. Is that a Jeremy decision, or does Bruce actually do that?
That was Bruce. So we had a lot of the notebooks, the real notebooks that that Bruce used while recording. We got them photocopied, but we did at one point have the real notebooks that Bruce used to write down the lyrics for this record. So in a lot of the writing, I had those photocopies in the house, and I would practice his handwriting often at night,
Another thing I was looking for was when he was gonna smile, because there's a long stretch of this movie. I'd say 90% of this movie, he's kind of sunken. The smile is triggered the first time when Haley answers the door and he's greeted by Faye's daughter. What do you think that smile being triggered in a moment like that, some child joy, says about Bruce?
I think that's innocence, I think he had been thinking about himself a lot. Obviously, as a young man, you can see through the flashbacks and his relationship to his father and that sort of like loss of innocence. And then I think, being greeted by a young girl, that's he's met with innocence, and he's able to kind of step out of his own way for a moment, just being in the presence of a child like that,
Congratulations on this film. You play one of the few fictional characters here. Jeremy obviously has Bruce to go off of, Jeremy Allen White, that is. Same thing with Jeremy Strong, the real man to go off of. Was Faye completely on the page, or was there any kind of collaboration you had with Bruce about learning about who his relationships were like at that stage of his life?
She was completely on the page, but I think that was a result of Scott's conversations with Bruce, kind of finding out these details about certain people in his life at that time. And, Warren Zanes, who wrote the book that the film is based on, kind of had some little clues in there about certain people that he might have dated, or, and Bruce in his memoir kind of mentions a couple of people. So I think that there were these little hints to who she was, or who this person might kind of allude to, and Scott kind of synthesized all of that into this character that was, at least for me, very much on the page.
Beautifully said. Your relationship with Bruce. I know I heard, I think it was at the New York Film Festival when the film was first screened, that your father has a Springsteen cover band, so this must be a surreal experience for you. I'm sure you've been talking about that all day. What was that one-on-one like with Bruce?
It was pretty amazing. I met Bruce and Scott and Jeremy all at the same time together. Like, I'd never met either of them, and then all of a sudden I was meeting all of them on the same night. And it was a little overwhelming, but I think they're all such gorgeous people that they really put me at ease. But yeah, it was amazing. I think that there's part of this film that for me feels like a great achievement just as an actor, because it is the caliber of people I'm working with, and the the film is obviously I think a very beautiful, brilliant film that I get to be proud of being in. And that feels like an achievement, but then it also feels like an achievement for like teenage me saying, oh my God, I'm in a movie about Bruce Springsteen and I get to like introduce my dad to him. And like, that's a really cool achievement too. So yeah, it operates on a couple levels.
I can't believe we're at the Stone Pony.
Man,
We're on the set of your film.
You can't make a film about Bruce Springsteen and not be at the Stone Pony. So I think it's incredibly fitting that we're here for our press junket.
It's truly special. I was reading earlier today, Stephen Graham, who plays Bruce's father in this film, he got a very nice text from Bruce after one of the screenings.
Yeah.
And what he said verbatim was, Bruce texted him, "I felt like I saw him today," referencing his father, "and thank you for giving me that memory." I'd love to start on that note, doing right by another man's vulnerability. Biopics are always a lot of responsibility, but I feel like it might be easier when you're celebrating as opposed to showcasing some of the dark times. Can you kind of speak to the responsibility you felt in showcasing Bruce's vulnerability?
Well, a daunting challenge to make a film about Bruce Springsteen because he means so much to so many people and they bring so many preconceived notions about Bruce. There's folks who love Bruce from Darkness or Greetings or Born to Run or Born in the USA, but not a lot of people, if you aren't an ardent fan, are aware of Nebraska, which is a very specific and intimate time in his life that I focus on. And it's really all about vulnerability. Because so often, people of a certain stature feel like if you show vulnerability, you're showing weakness. And it's incredibly artistically courageous of Bruce to allow me to explore his most painful and most vulnerable chapter in his life. A time when he's just coming off of the River Tour, 1981, end of 81, in which he's on the ascent to becoming a major superstar. And instead of continuing to chase the roar of arenas and number one hits, he chooses silence and a 4-track recorder in a rented house in New Jersey and the courage to look inward. And that choice gave us Nebraska.
It's very special, very well said as well. There's a line at the beginning of the film that stuck out to me when Bruce is buying his first car. And it's like, the salesman goes, I know who you are. And he goes, oh, well, when you find out, like, let me know.
That makes one of us.
That makes one of us. That's what it was. At what point during production did you feel like you started to really understand who Bruce Springsteen was?
Probably during the writing phase, because I came to New Jersey, spent some time with Bruce. I saw him on tour in Europe, spent some time with him there. While I'm writing the screenplay, we would do a lot of FaceTiming while he was on tour in Europe and I was still here. And then once I started casting and recreating his life in great, great detail, where I spent an inordinate amount of time with Bruce to better understand exactly what he was experiencing, not only in his lowest lows, but in his highest highs right here on this stage behind me. And you can only really understand that when you spend a great deal of time with someone. You can't really understand it as much from his autobiography or the biographies that I've written, or even Warren Zanes' incredibly intimate and warm look at this chapter in his life. So Bruce said one thing to me that stayed with me and really opened everything up. He said, the truth about yourself isn't always pretty. Make a Scott Cooper film, because your movies never let the audience off the hook. They don't sand off the edges, and they tell the truth. And at that point, I knew that this was not going to be hagiography, because I don't even know how to make that. It was about telling the truth of a man who was our most truthful and authentic artist.
Yeah, I'm a Boston boy. I know Black Mass. That was a raw story that you delivered with that picture.
Thanks, man.
I'm so glad we also kicked off with Born to Run. What a way to kick off the music side of this film. And I was a little worried going in. Obviously, it's in the trailer, but Nebraska covers a catalog of Bruce Springsteen songs that are not exactly the commercial hits, as is covered throughout the project.
His least commercial.
Yes.
album.
So with that in mind, were there any songs for you as a Bruce fan that you really wanted to include, but they just didn't fit with this narrative?
Probably Jungle Land or Thunder Road. I mean, look,
Dancing in the Dark for me.
Right.
I would have loved to have heard Jeremy's rendition.
Which is quite astonishing, I have to say.
You've heard it.
I think I have. Yeah,
Jeremy recorded a Dancing in the Dark.
He sure did. I mean, look, we record a lot of things, and a few that aren't in the film, but I think the easy route would be to tell the story of, maybe not easy, but more accepting on a wider scale, Born in the USA or the Born to Run story that most people know. But so few people know what Bruce was suffering through during this most painful chapter of his life. So to start the music off with Born to Run and then show the stark contrast of Nebraska tells the story of Bruce Springsteen. And that's why I did that.
It's awfully fitting for a handsome devil rock star. I do know who you are.
Well, that makes one of us.